did the weekend go, Tyler?
No clue.
Telling you, it's so quick.
It is.
So quick. How was your weekend?
Not bad. Not bad. Pretty relaxing weekend, pretty slow weekend, which is nice after a week of running around like mad over here. So.
That's Tyler's way of saying he may have actually had a day off with no Civic Center TV involved.
Almost.
What about yesterday, though? There was really
until about 5 o'clock.
Oh, yes. Well. Okay, don't check your emails, Tyler.
There wasn't an email. No, I got a phone call.
Don't answer.
Yeah, next time I won't. It's a knee-jerk reaction. It was a bad idea.
Happy Monday, everyone. I hope everyone out there had a great weekend. The weather was pretty nice on Saturday. A little dreary yesterday. I always look at Sundays or days that it rains, though, as your excuse to actually just stay indoors, cook like a great meal, or, fall time I like to do like a crock pot or a stew, something of that nature. Sometimes, I'm going to tell you a secret, I will buy the chicken noodle soup from Costco and put it in my crock pot and let it simmer all day just so my house smells really good. But then people are like, oh, you made homemade soup. Yeah, it is homemade. It's just not homemade by me. It's homemade by Costco.
Okay.
But they have one of the best soups. Their chicken noodle soup is really good. So, but thank you, everyone, for tuning in to the Oakland County Megacast here on Civic Center TV, Birmingham Area Municipal Access. Also, if you're in the area, you have cable TV. We say thank you because the fees that you pay help support programming such as this and all the other great things that Tyler and the team do here at Civic Center TV for the greater West Bloomfield area. All of the meetings that you get to see are right here, and that's done by the one-man machine called Tyler. And I think now more than ever, it's so important because of the pandemic. A lot of people aren't getting out because they don't feel safe, but also a lot of these meetings are virtual as well. So it not only allows for more people to participate, but on top of that, it also, the recorded people can go back, see what the hot topics are, but you don't have to invest so much of your time. So if you're making dinner, you're helping your kids with the homework, you're doing a load of laundry, you can do it from the comfort of your home and still log on to the meeting and watch it. And you're able to do that because of public access TV and because of Tyler over here.
Sure. Yeah, we do all the we do pretty much all the meetings for West Bloomfield, the city council meetings for Keego Harbor and Sylvan Lake, the planning commission for Keego Harbor, and then we also do the West Bloomfield School District Board of Education meetings like we have tonight, and we import the Oakland County Board of Commissioners meetings also.
A lot going on. I will say one thing coming out of this pandemic, Tyler, we've talked about this before, is that I think a lot of people are now really understanding the importance of all those people that are involved in our local elections, and not just the issues like your city council people, but also the ones that are on the board of directors or board of education. And, because I will admit when it came to, especially like board of trustees for Michigan State University, U of M, I was kind of like, it's always names that I mean, it's the movers and shakers throughout Metro Detroit. But now this is really a good time to research those individuals, do a little bit of homework as you head to the polls, because I think now more than ever, we understand the importance of all those elected leaders and the decisions that they are making for us on a local level. And with that, just a reminder to everyone, today is the deadline for you to register to vote. So Election Day officially just a couple weeks away. However, here in Michigan, we are now voting. You can do so absentee.
And you can register up and on the day of the election, but after today you cannot register by mail or online. You have to go in to your physical clerk's office
and do it in person.
And do the registration in person. So It doesn't end today, but the more convenient ways to register to vote do end today.
Right. Thank you for the clarification, because that is important to know that. But I do everything in person anyway.
So do I.
I want to make sure it's worth my 15, 20 minutes. So, so hey, quickly though, we want to, let me bring it up. I know Tyler always gets on me because I'm late on all these good things. So, hey, head over to civiccentertv.com. Click on coronavirus, and there you'll find the latest headlines. We post them each morning before heading to the studio each and every morning. You just click on coronavirus, and that's where you'll find it. Rapid testing is on the rise here in the United States, but are the numbers actually accurate? After struggling to ramp up testing, the U.S. can now screen several million people daily thanks to the growing supply of rapid tests. But the boom comes with a new challenge: trying to keep track of these results. All U.S. testing sites are legally required to report their results, positive and negative, to public health agencies. But state health officials say many rapid tests are going unreported, which means some new COVID-19 infections may not be counted. And the situation could get worse as the federal government prepares to ship out more than 100 million of the newest rapid tests to states for use in public schools, assisted living centers, and other new testing sites. We've talked about this before. It's really about the numbers and the accuracy of the numbers. And this has been an ongoing debate from the very beginning, but now you're introducing some of these new testing ways into the general public. And you remember before we had our intern, Erica, with us. Well, it's been over a month ago or so now. She's at the University of Miami down in Florida, and they actually were mail tests that they could take. So who's keeping track of those results? That's going to be the big question about this going forward.
Yeah, because the tests don't matter. It's the results that matter. And the tests have to be accurate, and they have to be compiled accurately, and that information needs to be disseminated to local health departments, state health departments, and the United States in a manner that is accurate and that is as quick as possible, so that these local and state governments can make their decisions on continuing to address the pandemic in a timely manner. Because and it is a case of the incubation period. So a couple of weeks is not just a couple of weeks. It's not just 14 days of time to make a decision. That is a critical snapshot in time that is supposed to be dictating where your response is going forward, because that's where the COVID-19 spread and all that comes with it is leading.
Yeah. It's such an ongoing debate as we try to get this right. And this all coming out at the same time that for the first time since late May, Michigan public health officials reported Saturday that 5% of nearly 42,600 tests for COVID-19 came back positive, a sign of a growing spread of the coronavirus. The rate of positive tests in Michigan was under 3% earlier this fall. There were about 1,791 newly confirmed infections, 23 deaths on Saturday. Now, many of the new infections, keep this in mind, over 253, they were reported in Marquette. That's where the Michigan Department of Corrections officials have been battling cases among staff and the prison population there. But again, this has been kind of a big issue lately, is that we're back above the 5% of the positivity rate as we go into the warmer months or the colder months, coming out of the warmer months, going into the colder months. The big concern here, Tyler, is really going to be, is that number going to grow, continue to get higher? Because what is that going to do for all these businesses that have just been allowed to reopen, who are really on a lifeline right now? And if we close down again, they're not going to survive.
Yeah, I think the fact of the matter is the people of Michigan need to take this more seriously. Once again, we've kind of let our guard down a bit with this. The positivity rate was circling right around that 3% threshold that is in the really safe range and in the good response range for a while there. And then all of a sudden, as we got a few months further forward after after the last uptick that happened, and as we got to the point where the governor's orders had been struck down by the Supreme Court and there was a need for a state response, I think that some complacency's definitely come into play, and now it's showing up in the numbers. So if we want to keep these businesses in business and we want to keep the economy strong while still responding prudently to the pandemic, we need to do better as the people of Michigan to continue to take COVID-19 seriously, as annoying as all this stuff is, it's still going on. It's still very much a real threat to our public safety, to our public health, and to these businesses. And we're up at 5% for the first time since May. It's been several months, of course, since then. And if we continue trending up, these businesses are going to be at serious risk, because this time it's not going to be a shutdown temporarily. It's going to be, for a lot of these businesses, a permanent one.
I will say I invite all of our viewers and listeners to head over to Bridge Magazine, because I will say they're doing a great job of trying to track this, but they don't just track the numbers that the state gives them. They're also allowing for you to go on and track the number of cases and for what county. I think people need to try to start saying, well, what's going on in Detroit? Because Detroit's numbers right now are at like 1.9%. So Detroit, obviously, at the beginning of this was the hot spot and was the center of the outbreak. So how has the city of Detroit been able to get to 1.9%? I don't know about you, Tyler. I go to the city of Detroit on a pretty regular basis. And not downtown, not like, the hub, but I go out into the neighborhoods, and I can tell you, I don't understand how this is so low, because unless the people in the neighborhoods maybe just aren't being tested, because we got to remember, when you're poor and you're sick, you're not getting tested. But I can tell you, I've been out with the homeless population. I've been out just in the neighborhoods, and I've seen, celebrations. I've been at the parks. And no one is wearing a mask. No one is wearing a mask, and no one is being socially distant, which is kind of hard for some of the street people in Detroit. But yet the city of Detroit right now only reporting 1.9% according to Bridge Magazine, and the state data as well. So it does. It's really good to just click on and look at the numbers and try to figure out what's going on. The numbers are up here in Oakland County as well. I do track our area, or my zip code is Keego Harbor and Sylvan Lake. I track our numbers each and every week too. So it's just a good thing. Stay on top of, check it out. Be informed for yourself. You can read the headlines, but just look at the raw data for yourself. So also in the headlines today, nursing home workers scheduled to strike. Group of nursing home workers are walking off the job today. Essential nursing home workers at Four Seasons Rehabilitation and Nursing Home in Westland agreed in August to delay their planned strike by 30 days after the governor urged the SEIU Healthcare Michigan and nursing home chains to negotiate toward a fair contract. They say they are treated as they are dispensable, and they're now going to walk off the job, kicking off their strike over unfair labor practices. They said they're arguing for more PPE, better pay, as well as more staff to help take care of the patients. We've talked about this issue at length here on the Oakland County Megacast, and they are now going to strike to try to get their concerns resolved. Also on Oakland County, CivicCenterTV.com, after publishing a study conducted in conjunction with the U.S. Department of Defense on exposure to the coronavirus on flights, United Airlines announced that the risk of such exposure aboard their aircrafts almost non-existent. But some experts say that could be misleading. So they did a study, Tyler. They used a mannequin and basically took it and sprayed it with release test in order to try to replicate breathing and coughing. They're saying after they studied it, people without a mask were at higher risk, but because of the rate that the particles are filtered throughout the cabin, that there's a 0.003% of becoming infected by the air particles if you are wearing a mask, even if you're seated next to one another. Because in the beginning they were trying to separate maybe a seat in between.
Right.
They're no longer doing that. So it's because they're saying that the air circulation is so fast that it's nearly non-existent. Now, obviously keep in mind, this all has to do with the fact that the airlines are trying to claw their way out of the financial disaster caused by this pandemic. what happens with this, though, is you're also looking at, it was a study with the U.S. Department of Defense.
Yeah.
Does that give it credibility, more credibility?
It gives
to
it
you?
some credibility. It gives it more credibility than it just being, a study done by the airlines. I mean, that's like saying, candy company says that eating candy all day for 7 weeks in a row without brushing your teeth doesn't cause tooth decay. It's like, I would trust that about as much as that, and then they add the U.S. Department of Defense to that, and it's like, okay, it's a little more credible, but it's still being done by the industry itself in a time of absolute need. So do I want to trust it? Absolutely. Do I give it some credit? Sure. Do I give it all the credit and trust it by the letter? Probably not, just because of who's behind it, like with any other study.
Do your research. We say it once, we say it twice, we'll say it all the time. And the good thing, or the good place to do your research, is right here on CivicCenterTV.com. Just go over to the tab Coronavirus, click on that, and along with the headlines, what we also do is you'll see links there to the CDC, the state of Michigan, Oakland County, as well as our local communities, so that you can read the information for yourself and become informed. That's what we are here to do. And with that, we are going to be kicking off this Monday. We have a good lineup ahead for you, because one of the things we're trying to do, people do want to get back out and try to start living again and experiencing things. And of course, the big thing with that has to do with so many of our museums and our other big areas of, just interest throughout the Metro Detroit area. So coming up here on the Oakland County Megacast, we're going to be speaking with the director for the Arab American National Museum, and then the Eastern Market Partnership. Eastern Market, one of my favorite places to go. Leadfoot Consulting. Now is an important time for so many businesses to actually reach out to a consultant and try to get their business known and what they're doing during the pandemic. So we'll be speaking with them as well. And then, of course, the Michigan Festivals and Events. Tough time for so many of the festivals and events, which are really, it's just a tradition for so many people here throughout the Metro Detroit area, but they've really taken a hit and continue to struggle. But are there ways to go virtual for a festival? And we'll be speaking with them about that as well here on the Oakland County Megacast. But in the meantime, we're going to take a quick break here on the Megacast.
Michigan, the coronavirus pandemic has put us all to the test. And now it's time to put COVID-19 to the test. As we move forward, testing will be critical. We encourage anyone who has reason to get tested to do so, those with symptoms and those without. If you are leaving home and going back to work, get tested. If you think you may have COVID-19 or you've been exposed recently through family, friends, or coworkers, get tested. Our test locator tool can help you find the right testing site that fits your needs. Even if you're looking for easy access with no cost, no prescription, and no appointment necessary, we've got you covered. Help Michigan move forward, not backward. To find a testing site or learn more, visit michigan.gov/coronavirus test. A message from the Michigan Department of Health and Human Services. Michigan, we still need to stay careful because we don't want to go backwards, back to where we started. So keep standing 6 feet apart. Keep wearing a mask in public. And if you have symptoms, talk to a healthcare provider about getting tested. To move forward, let's all do our part. So stay careful. Michigan.gov/coronavirus.
Hey, as always, thank you for tuning in to the Oakland County Megacast here in the Civic Center TV studios, along with 89.3. I'm Ronnie Dahl with Tyler Keefe. We always appreciate you. We are here Monday through Friday, 10 a.m. to noon, bringing you interesting interviews of decision makers and people of interest and businesses of interest here in the greater West Bloomfield, Oakland County area, as well as across the state of Michigan, because this virus has no boundaries. We're excited to have with us here on the Oakland County Megacast Deanna Abuali. She is the director of the Arab American National Museum. Thank you for being with us on the Oakland County Megacast. I am ashamed to admit that I have never been to your museum, and I knew it existed, but I've never actually been there. But when I was on the website today, I'm like, what a beautiful museum for us to have in our backyard, because it is the first and only museum, am I correct, still to this day telling the Arab American story?
That's right. First, I want to thank you for inviting me and for giving me this opportunity, and nice to meet you as well. Yes, the Arab American National Museum in Dearborn remains the only museum of its kind. It was the first. And yeah, we tell the Arab American story. We try to promote and preserve and document the history, culture, and contributions of Arab Americans. As you know, Southeast Michigan is a major center for Arab Americans, but there are Arab Americans throughout the United States and congregated in places like California, New Jersey, but really all over the country. So we try to represent their stories, the different stories and voices of this community.
Let's start with first, how did Southeast Michigan become such a hub for Arab Americans?
I believe it's because of the motor company. A lot of them came and to work in the Ford factories and the other automobile factories. And so it was a destination for all kinds of immigrants. South End and Dearborn for many years was a very, very actually diverse place where you found not only Arabs, but, immigrants from other countries in Europe and elsewhere. So that's essentially what brought them to this part of the country.
Since you just said that, it kind of rang a bell in my head. I was speaking with someone recently, and he was saying his dad came here to go work for the motor companies, but he didn't speak English well enough. So he ended up going to work for a grocery store in the city of Detroit, which then led to him owning a grocery store, and then the kids took over. Because how much of a language barrier does this pose for so many people who do immigrate here from the beginning days?
I mean, I think, it was a barrier. I mean, you have to, this is the thing about these sort of communities that kind of, grow and sort of coalesce, right? That, of course, if you're coming to the United States and English is not your first language or a language it can pose a sort of difficulty and barrier. But I think that's why maybe some immigrant groups tend to congregate among each other, so that there is at least a sort of community for them to speak their language. But I know for many, Arab Americans, they tried to, whether in the factories they were able to learn English. And, this is just really the problem of the first generation of immigrants who come here. Once they have children, English becomes, for the most part, their first language. So it's really just a temporary, I think, barrier that, immigrants face. Once they sort of are settled in the United States, once their, children are born, they kind of, find work, are able to, associate with other Americans, and it becomes less and less of a problem. But that's the sort of the kind of that's why I always find immigrants very, very brave people. I mean, imagine yourself going to a country where you don't speak the language, and having to sort of survive and acclimate and make a living. So it's really something that they've overcome. It's a barrier, but I think most immigrants are able to sort of overcome that.
Their stories are absolutely inspiration, and they do kind of play out into the American dream that if you come here and you work hard, you can make a living and support a family. One of the things I find really kind of depressing is that when, like you said, it's like they may speak their language when they come, but then their children or their children's children don't want to maybe learn their native language. And so you'll have second and third generations that can't maybe speak fluently with their great grandparents. And to me, it's like one of the greatest gifts that you can give your child here in America more than anywhere else. Because if you do go to Europe, most people speak 2 or 3 languages fluently. That's not the case here in the U.S. But if you can teach your kids a fluent language from a young age, it is such a gift. But because so many generations, they want to be Americanized per se, they're not teaching them their native tongue. And I feel like that's like a disservice to their kids, because companies now, are you finding that businesses and companies are looking for people of diverse backgrounds with foreign language speaking skills?
No, absolutely. I think, knowing learning any foreign language or second language is a benefit. When you know another language and you're interested in, say, that country or that culture, not knowing that language it's like being colorblind, right? You can't really understand that culture. So a lot of people who say are interested in the Middle East and the Arab world and don't speak Arabic, I'm talking about journalists and other people, a lot of them don't speak Arabic, and how can you understand that part of the world? For the children of immigrants, I think it depends on really when you were born. So I personally, my parents immigrated to Canada, and we lived there until I was 7, then we went back to the Middle East. But when I was in Canada in the 70s, you didn't really teach your kids Arabic. It wasn't sort of something to be done. And we didn't live within an Arab community in Toronto. I have to say, here in Dearborn, because it's such a large community, a lot of, generations, the younger generations do speak Arabic still. It's still a language that is spoken, even if the person was born in the United States. So some of my colleagues were born here, yet they are able to speak Arabic. So it's really a function of whether, you live in a community and you can keep it up, when you were born, let's say, if you live in a part of the country where there is no community to maintain that language. But I do agree with you, having a second language or third is just an asset that is very, very valuable. And I wish more Americans spoke, multiple languages. I mean, how can there's no, you don't lose anything when you learn a language, and instead you gain so much more. And it's just a window to different worlds, really.
I will say I tried to learn Arabic through Rosetta Stone. No, it just didn't go well, because I wanted to be able to communicate. I was a former reporter who was often sent to Dearborn, and you wanted to be able to communicate with the people of the public, but Rosetta Stone was just not the answer. But there are new things out there as well as Meetup is a good place. And speaking of that, in that people who do want to learn more about Arab Americans and your culture and your community, let's talk about the museum. What can they find at the museum? Because I know is it still closed right now?
Unfortunately, yeah, it's still closed. We're not sure when we're going to reopen in 2021 for sure, but we're keeping it closed for protect everybody's safety, basically.
So many other museums and other cultural institutions have turned to virtual. Are you doing the same thing?
We are. A lot of actually all of our programming is now online. So in terms of programming, I mean musical performances or poetry readings or panel discussions. Those are all online. Yeah, we sort of switched online back in April. And that's been pretty successful. We've had a rich, programs since then. We are having an in-person event at the end of October. And that's going to be outside, actually in our parking lot. And it's a dance performance. So if you go to the website and you go to our calendar, it's called Badi Watani, and it's a drive-in dance performance. So there's limited tickets, but it's safe. Everybody stays in their cars, and we have our artists in residence, Leila Awadallah, and a few other dancers performing for us. So, but generally, yes, we are closed, but you can find some information about Arab Americans. You can access our archive. There are different collections. We have a new exhibit up on something called the Pen League, which is a group of writers that included the famous Khalil Gibran, author of The Prophet, We have an exhibit sort of honoring that group and their literary productions, and it's because this year is the 100th anniversary of that literary group. That they lived in Lower Manhattan in New York in the early 20th century.
Deanna Abouali, the director of the Arab American National Museum, joining us on the Oakland County Megacast. Deanna, you mentioned that all of your current programming is online, with the exception being the event that you're holding outside in your parking lot at the end of October. For those that are interested in the programming of the Arab American National Museum, or those that have visited before but want to revisit the museum in a virtual space, what can they expect to learn about right now with the current programming, and or does that programming encompass kind of all of what they would normally experience at the Arab American National Museum?
I mean, yes and no. I mean, there's, some of this programming that we used to do in person, we've kind of repurposed it or reformatted it for the online platform. So for instance, we have a very popular offering called Yalla Eat Tours, where we offer, it's a walking tour through Dearborn, and you visit different eating establishments, whether restaurants or, roastery, what do they call them? Roasteries, where you get nuts and those kind of things. So obviously we can't do that now, but what we offered instead was our offering instead is a sort of Yalla Eat chef series. So every Tuesday afternoon on Instagram, one Arab American chef, located throughout the country, doesn't have to be, not necessarily in Metro Detroit, offers teaches us how to make a signature dish of theirs or a favorite dish. So some things get sort of repurposed, others are new. We've done, I'm trying to think something new that we've done, sort of these poetry readings, virtual poetry readings by Arab American poets or Arab poets. Sometimes they're bilingual. So it's really a mix of different kind of offerings. The thing you can't see so much yet, even though we are sort of working on getting it available and accessible to educators and students, is sort of going through our exhibits, our core galleries, which tells the story of the Arab American immigrant experience of coming to America, settling and becoming acculturated in this country, and sort of learning about important Arab Americans who really made an impact on the country. That we're working on sort of enhancing and providing for our visitors who can't come.
Well, Arab Americans have definitely been such a vital part of the Metro Detroit landscape, and your contributions to, our community on so many different levels. And with that, by offering this museum, I know you've been open since 2005. It's so important to have this in our backyard, but so many other museums are also struggling right now because you rely on donations and ticket sales as well as contributions from the corporate world. How are you all doing right now in that area?
We're doing fine.
It's been hard, right?
It's been hard, yeah. So if you were to ask me this question back in April, I wouldn't know what to tell you. We were projecting, we had to lay off more than half our staff, for instance, in late April, which was for me personally the hardest thing I ever had to do professionally. It was a horrible, horrible time. We were projecting, 45% of our revenues to be gone because we had to close and we weren't making any money. But we really, we put our, nose to the grind. We launched a fundraising appeal that was successful. We implemented this really aggressive grant writing campaign. We got a lot of grants. And we were most recently selected by the Ford Foundation as one of America's cultural treasures. So these are 20 organizations, cultural organizations throughout the United States, Black, Indigenous, Asian, immigrant. So these 20 of these sort of institutions were chosen. We were one of the 20. So we've gotten this wonderful recognition from the Ford Foundation. It's a 4-year grant of $2 million, and we are really over the moon. This is it's general operating support, which is unheard of. And this is sort of, I'm really happy that Ford Foundation is sort of at the pioneer and pushing this new trend in philanthropy and foundational giving to really support organizations like ours, and supporting them with basically operating support, which is like I said, not common. So this is going to give us an infusion of money and funds to really carry us forward for the next 4 years as we approach our third decade. So we're doing okay. We're a lot better than we were. And this is really all due to the hard work of the staff and, Access, which the museum is a part of. Access is the Arab Community Center for Economic and Social Services, largest Arab American nonprofit, also located in Dearborn. They're the parent organization, and they've also been supporting us as well. So this is really, if we're doing well, it's really because of, again, staff, Access, and our community that has supported us, whether it's the Arab American community or the larger community in Metro Detroit and and different foundations as well. So I want to thank everybody for allowing us to continue and to be, this beacon, this cultural beacon for Southeast Michigan and for Arab Americans all over.
You're such a champion of diversity within our community, and while we understand the importance of the Arab American community in Metro Detroit and the greater area, I think some communities and maybe some states don't understand it. I will say I did not know what the Chaldean population was and what it was about until I moved to the Detroit area. So it's been an education, and we appreciate your voice and documenting these important stories. And so before we let you go, Deanna, anything you want the public or your listeners to know, even more so now we're in this contentious election coming up where diversity has it's been so divisive for our entire nation as well as even our community. What do you want people to know about the Arab American community? And if they feel uncomfortable asking questions, should they go ahead and have that conversation? Because I think people are afraid to have conversations right now because of the atmosphere into which our nation is portraying right now.
I think I firmly believe that obviously diversity and having multiple perspectives only makes this country stronger. So giving everybody the rights that they deserve, enabling these different communities, promoting diversity and equity is essential for a successful society. If people have questions about Arab American, of course, you should ask. And I think asking, but also listening is very important. Asking good questions, but listening to the answers, listening to what, people might need from you, the person asking the question. I think this also works across the board, whether you're asking questions, to the African American community or the Indigenous community. Asking and being genuinely curious and wanting to know and wanting to extend solidarity is important, but listening is also just as important as well. So I think a little asking, a little talking, but a lot of listening is really important.
We all are better when we open our hearts and we listen to people from different backgrounds, and we learn so much more. So quickly, if people do want to get involved, or maybe I know you're doing a lot of things virtually right now, they just want to learn more, how can they do that?
So we have a website, www.arabamericanmuseum.org. If you go there, there's all the information that you need. We have also a calendar of events that you can click on and learn about what's going on, whether it's, we're having a live performance that's going to be broadcast on Facebook Live, or whether it's the Chef Series on Instagram. All of that information is located there. And any updates we have about when we're going to reopen, you can find there as well. Also, if there's any questions, you can email me, you can email the different, if you're interested in education, if you're interested in public programming, all our emails, the emails of respective, staff people are located as well. So it's really the best place to go to. But you can find us also on Facebook, on Instagram, and on Twitter.
Well, thank you so much for taking time out of your busy schedule to be with us here on the Oakland County Megacast. We always appreciate it. And I look forward to being able to visit your museum in person. I saw it virtually, and it was beautiful. And thank you again for being a champion for diversity. We're all better with the more voices that we have in our community.
Yes. Please come visit, and I will give you a tour.
We would love that. We would appreciate that. The Arab American National Museum right here in Dearborn, it's the first and only museum dedicated to telling the Arab American story. We are so incredibly blessed to have them right here in our backyard, so we want to say thank you to them. We're going to take a quick break here on the Oakland County Megacast, and when we come back, another great thing that we have in our backyard is the Eastern Market. It's one of my favorite Saturday morning spots, and we'll be speaking with the president of the Eastern Market Partnership when the Oakland County Megacast continues.
Michigan, we're calling on you to save lives. Don't ignore it. Don't let it go to voicemail. It's urgent. In fact, it's critical. Because if you've been in close contact with someone who tests positive for COVID-19, you may have been exposed to the virus. And you could get a call from My COVID Help or your local health department. So please answer the call to learn how to protect yourself, your family, and friends. We're calling on you to stop the spread of COVID-19, to make it safe to reopen businesses and help Michigan move forward. So if you get a call from My COVID Help or your local health department, you may have been exposed to someone with COVID-19. To protect us all, answer the call. Learn more at michigan.gov/containcovid. A message from the Michigan Department of Health and Human Services.
Hi, I'm Dr. Jonae Khaldun. I'm the Chief Medical Executive for the Michigan Department of Health and Human Services. The people who are at highest risk of getting severely ill from COVID-19 are the elderly and those with chronic medical conditions. That includes people with heart disease, diabetes, COPD, or those who have compromised immune systems. People who are in those categories should right now be staying at home as much as possible and not going out if it is not essential. If you fit into one of those categories, those are the things you should do. And if you have a family member who fits into one of those categories, you should be checking in on them and making sure they are following those guidelines. There's something everyone can do to protect the community from COVID-19.
We're so grateful to have you tune in to the Oakland County Megacast. I'm Ronnie Dahl here in the studios alongside Tyler Keefe. Monday through Friday, 10 a.m. to noon, we bring you long-form interviews, and you can always catch us on Civic Center TV, Birmingham Area Municipal Access, Channel 15 on Comcast, Channel 99 on AT&T. Catch us on the radio if you're out driving around, 89.3 Lakes FM, 88.1 FM, The Biff. And then today, if you are one of my Facebook page followers on my journalist page, we are streaming today's Megacast over on my Facebook page. So thank you to all of you for tuning in. Please share, please like, spread the love, because again, we are based public access. So for all of you out there with cable, we want to say thank you, because a part of your cable subscription does help fund programming such as this. And of course, if you want to be on the show, just send me an email, hit me up on Facebook or here on civiccentertv.com. And as I said earlier, Tyler and I are here in the studios, and one of the things that is the purpose here of the Oakland County Megacast, which grew out of this pandemic, was to try to keep you, the general public, informed and engaged on all things COVID-19 related. That was way back in March. Tyler, here we are.
Oh, yeah.
How many months later? I think when you guys started this, you didn't know what you were getting into.
No, we had no idea what we were getting into. We certainly didn't imagine 7 months later that we'd still be at this. So we didn't know that 7 weeks later we were still going to be at this program.
But one of the great things is 7 months later, we are still here and we are still trying to engage in this conversation because COVID-19 impacts each and every one of us, including so many of our businesses and our traditions throughout the greater Metro Detroit area. And one of those areas, of course, is the Eastern Market. It is a fan favorite for so many of us to go down to the market on Saturday mornings. It's been in operation for well over 100 years now. However, Eastern Market is about so much more than just the Saturday morning farmers market. Let's go ahead right now. Dan Carmody, he is the president of the Eastern Market Partnership. He is joining us this morning on the Oakland County Megacast. Thank you for hanging in with us. I know I went a little long on the other interview. How are you doing, Dan?
Doing well. Thanks so much for having us. It's a pleasure to be here.
So I've been to the market. It's been a couple weeks since I've been downtown, and it does look like crowds are down. Although it's still a pleasure to always go and to have this in our backyard. How are things going for Eastern Market right now?
All things considered, we feel pretty fortunate. We never closed. We're open year-round on Saturdays, and at a time of year when COVID first struck, it was a time of year where we're in our smallest form, and we bridge to our biggest form, which is flower season. As most of your viewers probably are familiar with Flower Day, and the whole flower season is actually our busiest time of the year. We went from being slow to be even slower, and then as we came out of the depths of the lockdown over the summer, crowds have recovered. They aren't what they usually are, but they're still pretty significant. We've instituted a number of means to try to ensure that social distancing happens to the best that it can. And so far, our revenues, we didn't pack in vendors like we usually do. So there's like a 50% number of vendors. So actually, from a business standpoint, for those, say 100 and 125 that we serve rather than 250, many of them are experiencing years better or as good as last year, and some of them are down from last year. So what we have noticed is that while attendance overall is down, it's actually solved what we would call our tourist problem, in that Eastern Market over the last 10 or 12 years has become a more enjoyable place to come and spend a few hours recreating rather than shopping. And so what's happened is people come, they buy, and they leave. And that has improved our parking situation, and it's helped a lot of our vendors endure this tough time with sales that are in many cases equal to or more than they were this time a year ago. So crowds have stayed up. It'll be interesting to see as we do operate year-round, as we move it more indoors, people still feel comfortable coming to the market in the numbers they are in the summer and fall. We've instituted a number of pivots to make the market, resilient. We started in March delivering food boxes representing products from our Saturday vendors. You could actually drive through and pick it up without any human contact. At peak lockdown, we were distributing about 400 of those boxes a week. That number has dwindled. We're down to about 100, 125. We expect that number to go up as we enter the winter season. We also earned a contract with USDA to supply 2,000 food boxes a week to area social service organizations who distributed them free to help families impacted by COVID get through this tough time. And operationally, that was pivotal for us because we were able to replace lost earned revenue from renting space to vendors, fees we collected from producing 2,000 food boxes a week. So organizationally, we're not in great shape. Our revenues are down, but our expenses are down a bit more. We've had some spot layoffs, but have been able to keep our core team together. And so we're weathering the storm and getting ready for an equally uncertain 2021.
Yeah, because it's got to be hard for you going into the winter months because that's another slowdown season. Well, it's great to have the vendors that come out and they sell the Christmas trees and all things winter related. It's also harder to typically get people to come out there. And like you said, the tourist so be it, from the suburbs and here and there to actually come down. So if it doesn't pick up, how long do you think you can survive?
Customers are customers. We don't care where they come from. It's the tourist to us is someone who comes down. It's not necessarily to buy. That's that's not a bad thing. It's just that it has some aspects to it that aren't good, as far as convenient parking gets sucked up by people who are just enjoying themselves, not buying stuff. It makes it harder to convey heavy items to your car and go back and get more.
Yeah.
We stay busy till Christmas. Our slow, the first quarter of the year, January, February, March, is when things really slow down. And over the last, up until COVID struck, that was one of the fastest growing parts of the year, because we've diversified our offering, and there's a lot more value-added products. So there's a lot more vendors than there used to be at the winter market. And so we don't expect the winter market to go away. There's a seasonality to our revenue. And so while the USDA program has gone away and we have less, income from that program, this is a time of year where our revenues would ordinarily go down as well. So we have to, do those hourly and temporary worker, those positions do respond to the seasonality of the market, which is heavy in the spring, summer, and fall, and not so much in the winter. We, in addition to running the market, we have a number of food access programs where, in addition to things like the USDA food box, we actually distribute a number of other healthy, nutritious food servings, whether it's popping up in farm stands in a non-COVID summer, that's 25 or 30 locations around Metro Detroit, whether it's distributing food to senior centers. All of those have sort of pivoted and shifted to create opportunities to continue to do some of that work as people aren't showing up at farm stand sites, but distributing more to specific locations and putting more things in boxes so that people have less human contact. We also work with the business community that's largely food focused around the market. Many of them were in the distribution business that distributed primarily to bars and restaurants and institutions, and their business, March 17th took a direct hit. We started a drive-through Tuesday market during the peak of the lockdown. So every Tuesday from 1st of April to the middle part of June, we had as many as 12 district businesses, basically, that are in wholesale trade, be able to sell people caseloads. And so people drove by, they pre-ordered. Someone came out and put the case of chicken fillets, the case of corned beef, whatever it was. We had meat, we had bakery, we had fruits and vegetables, we had mushrooms. We had a pretty nice mix. People could buy in large quantity, and so a lot of people enjoyed that. We actually had traffic backed up about a mile at our peak. As people got more comfortable coming out, that went away. That bled into our seasonal markets that operate on Tuesday and Sunday. They're variations of a theme of what you'd find on Saturday. Many viewers still don't know about those markets. They're not nearly as popular as the Saturday market. The Tuesday market's a small model of the full market. It just fills one shed. It's food related, a lot more local growers. The Sunday market is more about stuff, people making artisan products, T-shirts, craft items. Both the Tuesday and the Sunday market were like the Saturday market, lower crowd counts, but more buyers, fewer shoppers. And so, again, we limped through. It wasn't what we'd like to see. The Saturday market has definitely felt the least effect. The other two were greater, but our vendors report, again, not down as much as you might expect with the dramatic reduction customers. And then the use of the market for other people's events, whether it's weddings or corporate fundraisers or nonprofit fundraisers, that had become a significant part of our revenue stream, generating $400,000 to $500,000 a year. That business virtually went away. We're starting to host a variety of drive-through and smaller scale events, which our facilities lend themselves to because they're big empty spaces that you can fill with fewer people. But that certainly hasn't. The revenue we get from those events is far below what we're used to. So as we So look to 2021, as you heard with the Arab American Museum, we've had to dial up our fundraising. We've gotten additional support from corporate and philanthropic sponsors to help fill the gap along with the USDA food box contract. And so, we're projecting revenues next year 75-80% of a normal year, up from 50 or 60% that we endured this year, but still far below what we're typically used to in a normal year. So,
Dan Carmody with us, the president of the Eastern Market Partnership, joining us on the Oakland County Megacast. Dan, with that in mind, with your forecast for 2021 in mind and everything that that the Eastern Market has been through since March and has learned since March, what that has been in operation or that has been in practice at Eastern Market over the course of this pandemic will persist and continue on even after we are beyond COVID-19 and be part of what we regularly will see down at Eastern Market?
Yeah, well, we'll gauge the food box curbside pickup and delivery options for both paying customers and also for our food access work, where we're providing free food funded by other people. We're going to have to pay careful attention to see which of those have legs and can stay. I can foresee a future in which the Saturday market will have a drive-up feature for those people that, from a convenience standpoint, I would prefer that. And we think the Saturday market is a tremendous flavor of urban chaos that everybody wants to get out of their car. But you can, if you're a senior, if you got small kids, maybe you don't want to jostle with 30 or 40 of your closest 1,000 of your closest friends. And so we'll evaluate various forms of delivery. We also want to continue to work with the businesses around Eastern Market that are primarily wholesale related to see what we can do to help grow their business in that sort of hybrid space where they're offering a greater opportunity for retail sales to people who want to take advantage of larger bulk purchases at better pricing. And then, what we've seen is because of the economic downturn after the 2008 meltdown as well, a surge in the use of EBT benefits, the bridge card, SNAP benefits, and other aligned, where vulnerable households can actually increase their purchase of healthy and nutrient-dense foods. And what COVID has exposed, I think, is so many of the underlying conditions in this country that led to the spike in death from COVID are diet-related diseases. 40% of those who died from COVID worldwide were diabetic. And there's one disease that's almost entirely treatable, type 2 diabetes at least, almost entirely treatable by changes to diet. And so we would like to think that we can use this pivot point not just at Eastern Market, but as a region where we can adopt healthier and more nutrient-dense foods into our diet on a more regular basis, and whatever we can do to help that across the board, from the most pricey exotic mushroom to the most affordable basic fruit and vegetable item. That has been the role of the market since its inception. And not to be lighthearted too much, but we're old hands at this pandemic stuff. We were here during the Spanish flu, and there's not much of a record left of what we encountered then. So I think one thing we should do is leave some better notes for future administrators that hopefully this won't happen again for more than 100 years.
I'll definitely hope on that one. Dan Carmody with us on the Oakland County Megacast. He is the president of the Eastern Market Partnership. And I know for most people, when they think Eastern Market, they just think about the sheds downtown to be able to go down and buy their flowers and their produce. But you guys do so much more than that. You're about education. Do you want to talk about that side of the house right now?
Yeah, we see improving diets as a three-legged stool. We make it real easy in the United States to buy highly processed foods that may or may not, have nutritional value. So fruits and vegetables are a little bit more costly per calorie, and so we try to support all sorts of alternative currency programs, whether it's the federal government's SNAP program or other local programs that provide doubling benefits to those who have say a $50 SNAP benefit per week. They can get another $50 from the Fair Food Network's Double Up Food Buck program. And we also are increasingly working with the medical community where doctors actually make prescriptions for fresh fruits and vegetables to people who could benefit having those. Hopefully that's actually a game changer that over the course of time that insurance companies start to make that an allowable benefit. That if you're pre-diabetic,
if I can just interrupt you quickly for just a second, you kind of froze a little bit on that portion. I find that fascinating. So you're saying doctors may actually write a prescription for fresh food?
We've been doing this in pilot form for about 4 years now, and we do have 2 insurance Medicaid benefit programs that are looking at investigating whether they want to make that benefit available to their participants. So that would be a huge game changer instead of relying on philanthropic investments to make that connection between the seriousness of your medical condition and the importance of food to help solve it is something that this fresh prescription, we call it, number of programs around the country trying to prove the connection and show the data that would inspire policymakers to look more favorably upon that as a legitimate benefit from various health insurance formats.
You're listening to 89.3 WBLD Orchard Lake, 88.1 WBFH Bloomfield Hills. We are joined on the Oakland County Megacast by Dan Carmody. He is the president of Eastern Market Partnership. Dan, just another minute or so with you here on the show. Anything we didn't touch on that you want the viewers and listeners to know about Eastern Market and all that you're doing down there?
We are a nonprofit, and we have relied more on giving this year to get by. So, if you visit our website, www.easternmarket.org, you'll find ways you can support us. We do have a version of our gala. Our fall gala used to be the best farm-to-table 8-course dinner you'd have available. We can't do that, obviously, large gathering, but we're working with 10 chefs around Detroit, and we'll be delivering meals to people's homes, 8 orders of 8 or more, so people can have their friends over and enjoy the bounty from Eastern Market and support us that way. And it also supports the chefs, so we're splitting the profits this year between Eastern Market and the chefs, because we know as they go into winter, those that have been open in the summer with outdoor dining will be in much tougher position over the winter as things go back indoors.
And where can people find out information about that?
That's also on our website. Again, just best way to touch base is www.easternmarket.org. And in addition to food access programs, we also do a lot of work around food entrepreneurship, trying to grow businesses into the food space. So we incubate them, we deliver them, trying to provide wealth earning opportunities for Detroit households, as well as down the road additional job opportunities. There are 1,500 food processing jobs currently in Eastern Market. There's about 6,000 jobs overall. We're a major employment center, and our organization leads the charge to make sure that Eastern Market has the space to be able to expand and be relevant another 125 years into the future, as we have for the last 125 years.
We would love that, because Eastern Market it's a tradition. It's become a family tradition, and it's also a staple and an important staple in our community. So Dan Carmody with the Eastern Market Partnership, we so appreciate your time this morning on the Oakland County Megacast. We wish you and the rest of your team the best of luck as you continue to navigate this pandemic. And like you said, you were here for the 1918 Spanish flu. Let's hope we don't go through another pandemic and come out of this one soon.
Thanks. It's been a pleasure being with you this morning.
Tyler and I are going to take a quick break here on the Megacast, and then when we come back, another full hour ahead of us. We'll be talking about consulting as well as festival and events, and then rounding out the show with a performer. How are they managing this pandemic? This is the Oakland County Megacast.
This may seem uncomfortable, but so is being hooked to an IV. sleeping in a hospital bed, and fighting for your life. When it comes to COVID-19, comfort is not as important as saving lives. Wearing a mask can greatly reduce the chance of spreading the virus. So mask up, Michigan, every time you leave home.
Hi, my name is Kurt Lawson, and I'm the Public Information Officer for West Bloomfield Township. We wanted to reach out to you, our older adults, to provide information that you may find useful during this difficult time. We want to ensure you that West Bloomfield Town Hall, our Waters and Utility Department, West Bloomfield Parks, and our police and fire departments continue to work hard on your behalf. Information and resources can be found on the Township website, the police Facebook and Twitter, or call West Bloomfield Park's COVID-19 Help Hotline. Please remember to keep your social distance of at least 6 feet, wear facial coverings when you leave your home, and wash your hands for at least 20 seconds with soap. These precautions will help keep you safe during these difficult times.
From small businesses to large businesses, we are all trying to navigate and survive COVID-19 and the long-lasting effects of this pandemic. And trying to help some of these companies do that is Bobby Keys. He is the owner and principal of Leadfoot Consulting. Bobby, I have to start off just by asking you, you must be a car guy from the name of your company. Am I correct?
That's correct.
How are you today?
I'm good, Ronnie. How are you this morning?
We are great here at Civic Center TV. How did you come up with the name, and when did you actually come up with your company?
I actually came up with the company back in 1992. I was at BBDO Advertising, which at that time we were doing all the Dodge and Dodge dealer worldwide advertising, eventually to include Jeep and Chrysler. And a couple of us that were good friends as well as executives, people kept asking us for help with their advertising and their marketing. And so we decided we should probably charge for our time. So with me and my habits with cars, we threw around some names and came up with Leadfoot Consulting. Mainly it started out purely on a consulting basis to help people get their hands, especially with small companies, around what they need to do marketing-wise and strategy-wise in order to promote their businesses. And we finally settled on Leadfoot, which has stuck very well. Most people find a little humor in it, which is great. But it kind of goes back to my involvement with cars through my life, from racing when I was a young kid to now trying to put a collection of cars together and other things that are automotive related.
Well, now more than ever, companies need to market themselves. What advice are you giving them through this crazy, chaotic COVID-19 time?
Well, it's been a very difficult time for people. We ourselves have actually lost, just here in Michigan, 7 clients. Their businesses, from restaurants, a dental office, cleaning service, they're closed. They're not going to reopen. It's really put a lot of pressure on them. They basically didn't have clients coming in. And so from that standpoint, what we've been trying to tell all our clients is reevaluate everything. Reevaluate the way you do it, how you interact with your clients, and reevaluate your messaging and communication. You cannot, in this environment, communicate to people to get them to come into your business or interact with your business the same way you did 10 months ago. Just not going to work.
And so knowing that, how important has social media been during this time for some of these companies and these businesses to reach out to their clients and to their population as well?
So social media has been kind of a mixed bag depending on the company and how involved in their social media messaging they really are. One of the issues with the social media is when people go on, all they do is see a lot of negative impact and not the positive of what can come out of this. And in order for companies to succeed through this, they really need to learn to expose themselves in a different way, reach out, put a positive message out, and do it more frequently. Because they're not going to be able to reach people through other types of venues. We used to do a lot of mailers. This year, everybody had probably noticed that the amount of mailers and advertising that you get in the mail has dropped significantly, and that's because you cannot take a coupon into a store, into a restaurant, anywhere. It's just starting to open up. So those first 7-8 months have been something we've had to steer people away from and do more of a branding communication rather than a coupon and come see us communication.
So, and with that, Bobby Key's with us here on the Oakland County Megacast. He is the owner and principal Leadfoot consultant and advertising expert. And knowing that, I would imagine you had to put all your skills to test during this pandemic in trying to help lead and navigate your clients through COVID-19. And knowing that, what do you think has been a positive long-term change coming out of all of this?
Probably the most prolific thing that I've noticed with the clients that are actually working very hard to keep their businesses afloat and move forward is they've reevaluated their messaging. They've reevaluated their communication and the way they approach their clients. One of the things we've always taught our clients is you have to think how your possible clients would want your service or product, not how you want to give it to them. And this has been very concentrated and very, I guess, the best way, using prolific again in this environment right now, because you can't just reach people the way you used to. And so it's been very difficult trying to change people's habits.
Bobby Key's with us on the Oakland County Megacast today. He is the owner and principal of Leadfoot Consulting, joining us on the program. In addition to his role at Leadfoot Consulting, he is also a classic car collector. And we know here in Metro Detroit, we have a lot of people that have a similar interest in classic cars that Bobby has. Bobby, what are some of your favorite cars that you have collected?
Well, over the years, since I was very, very young, my favorite car has always been the Corvette. I currently own 3 of them. I have 2, if you're familiar with Corvettes, they're C-Class cars, so the very first Corvettes back in 1953 started out as the C1s. In 63, they changed the C2s, 68, the C3s, etc. And I have a couple of C3s right now. I have a 1969 427 Corvette, which is custom, a 1982 all bone stock, which is the last year of the C3s. And then I have a one-off custom, it's a 2003 C5 with a custom 1957 body. So it's a one-of-a-kind car that I was able to purchase a few years back, and one of my favorite toys ever. And I've had a lot of cars over the years, from Chevelles to Mustangs to Camaros. So it's just rotating cars sometimes.
Bobby Key's with us, the owner and principal of Leadfoot Consulting and a classic car collector as well. One element of collecting classic cars is that there's a significant community that comes along with a lot of these collectors and enthusiasts of classic cars in the Metro Detroit area. How has the community of car collectors and car enthusiasts been impacted by COVID-19?
Well, the biggest problem this year is the lack of car shows. With the social distancing, a lot of the venues where a lot of the shows and a lot of the clubs had their shows, they just shut them down. The biggest example of trying to shut one down was Woodward Dream Cruise. Although it was not an official Dream Cruise this year, from what I understand, it was very successful. It was the first time I haven't witnessed it since the beginning because I was helping drive a brand new C8 Corvette from Daytona Beach up to Gaylord.
Bobby Key is joining us on the Oakland County Megacast. He is the owner and principal at Leadfoot Consulting. You've also previously helped to organize many events related to automotive and racing lifestyle, such as the Barrett-Jackson Auto Show and the Detroit Grand Prix. Those are events that have circulated through the Metro Detroit area over the last several years and several decades, but of course also been impacted this year. Is there any discussion or do you, from your experience, know what maybe these event organizers are considering for when they do bring these back, maybe in 2021 or beyond?
I've been in contact with Barrett-Jackson. They're actually doing their second online auction as we speak. There's a number of cars on their Barrett-Jackson website that are up for auction. They've done it online. The Mecum auctions have actually started doing their events live again. My understanding from my connections at Detroit Grand Prix, they're going full-blown ahead to have the Grand Prix again this year. A lot of it's going to have to do with planning. A lot of it has to do with, are we going to get a vaccine? What are the other protocols that can be put in place that can give people that feeling of safety? A lot of people are kind of just tired of it, but a lot of people are still so afraid of the virus that it's very hard, especially in the car collectors, because you do have a lot of people that are older, retired, that are into the car collecting, that have retired, have a lot of money, and that's one of their hobbies. And if they have any kind of significant health concerns, they're not going to want to show up at these events.
And with that, Bobby, just a couple more minutes here with you on the Oakland County Megacast. If we could shift back a little bit to your expertise of advertising, any last words of wisdom or a couple words of advice that you want to give out to the viewers and listeners or business owners right now as we're 7 months into this pandemic and how to continue to survive it?
Probably the best piece of advice I could give right now, as far as the marketing goes, is listen to your customers, because their needs or their way of interacting with your business have changed over the last 7 or 8 months. And some of this may be permanent changes. You may not have the ability to go back and do things the way you used to do them or communicate with your clients the way you used to. And the clients will tell you what they want and how they, but you have to engage them. You've got to make them interested in knowing that you're listening and you want to help them to provide your product or service to them.
Yeah, and that's one of the reasons why so many of these companies actually need a marketing expert behind them, because while they're looking at the bottom line, they also need to factor in how can they bring that revenue in and keep the revenue stream flowing. And one of that has to do is with marketing. And sadly, that's what so many companies are it's one of the first things companies tend to cut because of the budget, but it really is important to keep it going. So thank you for those words of wisdom. We so appreciate it. And I wish you much success in the future, and best of luck with all of your cars as well. How many speeding tickets, by the way, before we let you go, have you had in your lifetime?
Not that many for my bad habits. I'm pretty well safe up here. I pretty much behave when I'm on the street. I do get on it every once in a while, but for the most part, try not to do anything crazy. One thing is you never know what other traffic's going to do. So part of learning how to drive high-performance cars, racing, things like that, is you learn that, especially on roads, most people are driving somewhat distracted, and you sure don't want to lose your car because somebody else is not paying attention to how fast you're moving.
That is so true. We need to get you hooked up with the guys over there at M1 Concourse in Pontiac. Get you on the track over there, Bobby.
Yeah, I know a lot of people up there.
Well, we thank you so much for your time. It's great having you and having your insight to share with our viewers and listeners. Thank you so much. We're going to take a quick break here on the Oakland County Megacast. And when we come back, next up, we are going to be talking about the festivals and events right now as the COVID-19 crisis continues. This is the Oakland County Megacast.
As rivals, we don't always see eye to eye.
Like who scored the best recruits?
Who's gonna be who?
And whether we wear green
Or blue. But one thing we can all agree on to help stop the spread of COVID-19. Wear a mask.
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 The ball's in your court, Michigan.
Michigan, we still need to stay careful because we don't want to go backwards, back to where we started. So keep standing 6 feet apart, keep wearing a mask in public, and if you have symptoms, talk to a healthcare provider about getting tested. To move forward, let's all do our part. So stay careful. Michigan.gov/coronavirus.
For tuning into the Oakland County Megacast, I'm Ronnie Dahl alongside the one, the only Tyler Keith here in the studios of Civic Center TV and 89.3 Lakes FM in the greater West Bloomfield area. Always great having all of you tuning in with us here Monday through Friday, 10 a.m. to noon, as we work to bring you interviews of newsmakers, decision makers, and business owners and interesting people throughout the greater West Bloomfield, Oakland County, and the state of Michigan. As we all continue to try to navigate this thing we call COVID-19 and the crazy pandemic. We are, Tyler and I are here in the studios every day, and one of the things that we like to be able to do is to bring you long-form interviews so that you're able to hear from the people themselves, how they are handling the crisis, and also trying to help other individuals navigate this world. So maybe if you're a business out there, you can maybe take some tips and some advice from some of the other people on what has worked with them, but also to hear from directly from the newsmakers and our lawmakers about how they are dealing with this pandemic. One of our next guests now, we're happy to bring in. We've had him on the show before, and we're happy to have him now because one of the things, what we talked about 3 months ago is not the same thing that is happening now, because every week, every month, all the news and all the decision making and the requirements are changing here throughout the state of Michigan. Mike Sukant, he is the president and CEO of the Michigan Festivals and Events, joins us here live via Zoom on the Oakland County Megacast. Mike, thank you so much for being with us. We appreciate your time.
Well, thank you for inviting me. Appreciate the opportunity.
The last time we spoke, things were looking a little bleak because festivals are the heart of our communities and they bring out thousands and thousands of people. However, how do you bring thousands of people together safely in a pandemic? We watched as each and every one here, especially in the greater metro Detroit area, they were canceled in the early spring and into the summer months. How are things looking in the future?
Well, we're being optimistic. Obviously, the future is still kind of foggy. We're not 100% sure where anything is going to be. We still do not have a cure for the coronavirus, nor do we have a vaccine at this point in time. So, but we are, I mean, obviously everybody's learning from it, and we're all getting smarter in how we interact, how we social distance, how we sanitize and make sure that surfaces are clean. And fortunately, we're getting some somewhere with our legislature as far as coming up with things that are based on square footage opposed to just an arbitrary number. You know, when it was 10 people indoors and 100 people outdoors, our biggest challenge was what size indoors and what size outdoor are we talking about, and we're getting some clarification on that. That's poking a light through the door. So we're optimistic. We are planning on bringing back the fun in 2021.
So hope that is going to be the case because we all need a lot of fun in 2021. Hey, Mike, we're going to take a quick break here on the Megacast, but we want to call you on the phone. Your audio is a little bit off for us, which, hey, this is the nature of the virtual world that all of us are living in. So we'll take a quick break here, and then when we come back, let's check your audio and maybe even get you on the phone because you have important things to share with us, and we want to make sure everyone is listening. This is the Oakland County Megacast.
Hi, I'm Dr. Faust, the Medical Director for the Oakland County Health Division. The most important thing you can do to prevent the spread of illness is to wash your hands thoroughly and often. Follow these 6 easy steps every time you wash your hands. Step 1, turn on the sink and wet your hands with warm water. Step 2, apply soap to your hands and lather between your fingers, under your nails, and the front and back of your hands and wrists. Step 3, wash your hands by scrubbing them together for at least 20 seconds. Step 4, rinse your hands with warm, clean water. And step 5, dry your hands with a clean cloth towel, a paper towel, or hot air blow dryer. If you're using a cloth towel, make sure to change it often. For handheld faucets, turn off the water using a paper towel instead of your bare hand. Step 6, if you're using a paper towel, throw it away. Practice healthy habits like washing your hands after coughing or sneezing into them to keep you and others healthy. Go to oakgov.com/health or call Nurse on Call at 1-800-848-5533 to learn more.
Michigan, the coronavirus pandemic has put us all to the test. And now it's time to put COVID-19 to the test. As we move forward, testing will be critical. We encourage anyone who has reason to get tested to do so, those with symptoms and those without. If you are leaving home and going back to work, get tested. If you think you may have COVID-19 or you've been exposed recently through family, friends, or coworkers, get tested. Our test locator tool can help you find the right testing site that fits your needs. Even if you're looking for easy access with no cost, no prescription, and no appointment necessary, we've got you covered. Help Michigan move forward, not backward. To find a testing site or learn more, visit michigan.gov/coronavirus test. A message from the Michigan Department of Health and Human Services.
Okay, we're back here on the Oakland County Megacast. Thank you for being with us. Mike, I will say every time we have these technical issues, which really when you consider how many interviews we do, 5 a day, 25 a week, we have such few technical issues. I always wonder about the kids in these classrooms and how they're doing it. But hey, Mike, it looks like our audio is a little bit better, so we're going to bring you back here. Mike Sukand, he is the president and CEO of the Michigan Festivals and Events. We left you talking about fun in 2021. We all need a lot of fun in 2021. How are you going to make that happen?
Well, we're kicking off as we do every year. This is our 28th year of having our annual convention. Unfortunately, it's our first year as doing it as a virtual event. And so there's some challenges with that. It's going to be November 6th and 7th, and the whole theme is bringing back the fun in 2021. Some of the messages that we're going to be talking about, some of the breakout sessions are going to be a little different this year because of obviously the COVID. So we're going to be talking about how to handle those kinds of situations. Also, some of the things that are going on in society, how to handle some of those things. So it's going to be, it's not just going to be a pep rally. It's going to be preparation to get everybody on the same page so that we can have safe events for 2021. And we're looking forward to it. And you mentioned how the kids are doing. My wife's a school teacher, and yes, that's a bit of a challenge too. So kudos if you only have one problem in a week. That's great news.
We'll take it. And I will say to your wife and to all the teachers out there, bless their hearts. They're doing an amazing job trying to navigate this new world, as we all are. So tell us a little bit about this virtual platform, and I do think that this may be the way of the future as well, because from a business standpoint, it is a great way to actually be able to include more employees while reducing cost as well.
I cringe when I say it because everybody looks at me as if I've got three eyes, but there are some benefits that have come out of this COVID. And the benefits are we've had to rethink and we've had to become creative. And I think maybe we were complacent with the way we did things because it worked. And the Zoom meetings, people get frustrated with those Zoom meetings, but there was a lot of meetings that I missed because I couldn't afford the time to drive an hour one way to a meeting that lasted an hour and then another hour to drive back. And so 3 hours of my day are shot, where now I can have 3 consecutive Zoom meetings. Yes, I know it's kind of crazy to do that, but I'm able to meet with people that I would not have been able to meet with before. And we've been doing that a lot with our membership, having Zoom meetings, bringing in keynote speakers. And that was something that was not available before because we're a statewide organization. And to have somebody from the Upper Peninsula and Benton Harbor and Detroit and Traverse City all being on the same Zoom call at the same time, and then as soon as you hang up, you're on another meeting with somebody else. I don't think that's a bad thing. I think that's a benefit that we didn't have before, or we had it, we just didn't utilize it. And that's kind of where we're going with our convention. Instead of having everybody booking a room at a hotel or a conference center, booking all these rooms for breakout sessions, and then having the same breakout session happen 3 different times so that people could see it. And maybe you only had 15 different breakouts. We've got 30 breakouts this year. And as you get your registration, that gives you access to participate in the breakout sessions live, but also because you've got the registrations, you can go back and you can pick up something that you missed. So you could actually see all 30 breakout sessions. You're going to be able to go through a trade show just like you would before, but instead of walking, you're going to go surfing through the internet, going from one booth to another, and you can interact privately without somebody else leaning over your shoulder, having a conversation with the person that's got that product or service that you wanted to talk about. The same thing is true for our entertainment. That's probably the hardest part, because I love live entertainment, and not being in the banquet hall with the band playing is, there's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. We're going to miss that, but the bands are still going to play. They're just going to be virtual. They're going to be in a recording studio, and they're going to play, and then you'll be able to interact with that band's manager for available dates and booking information. So it's going to be different. You know, the one thing that we can't have is we can't have the food and beverage. We cannot have the hospitality suites, which are all things that people like to, you know, sometimes you think that's where the best deals are made, or in the hallways of a convention, not necessarily in the breakout rooms. So until we can figure out how to Zoom that, I guess we'll just have to live with the challenges.
Yeah, and there is something to be said about when you go to the conferences, the organic relationships that grow out of those spur of the moment greetings and meetings that you do with strangers. But on the other side, the positive part of this, I think, is you can focus in on the areas that are of interest that you really need to learn from when you go to these conferences, because there were a lot of times you go to a conference and you'd meet people, but then, oh, we're going to get together or contact me, and you never hear from them again. This allows you to keep track of people, but also to focus into the areas of which you are actually there to learn from. So maybe going forward, it's going to be a hybrid model, but I do think this is going to be something that's going to stick around from here on out. What do you think about that?
Oh, I agree with you. I think that it is going to be something that's going to be around in a hybrid manner. I think there's also an opportunity to do a convention in the future where you may be in one location. I mean, you actually may be in multiple locations. You know, it's kind of like the old New Year's Eve party where okay, we're going to go see so-and-so, and they're playing on stage in this stage here in this city, and then you're going to flip over here to this one. And there's opportunities to be able to pull on multiple locations and be able to get people to still have that interaction. It's also been a benefit for us in getting the breakout session speakers and our keynote speakers, because they didn't have to travel either. And you know, we've got a great lineup of breakout sessions, or our keynote speakers. We got Dave Lorenz from Pure Michigan that's going to be talking about the Pure Michigan campaign and how that's the funding of that this coming year, and what the impact is going to be on tourism in the state of Michigan, especially coming out on as we navigate our way out of COVID. And then we've got the guys from the Under the Radar talking about, you know, they're visiting around the state, and it's the pivoting that they've had to do in their TV shows, from going from festival to festival to doing things virtually. And then kind of the dark side, but yet something that we need to definitely be conscious of. We got Genesee County Sheriff Chris Swanson is going to be talking about human trafficking, because he's a part of the festival and event family, and something that he does personally on his own. And he sees that our festivals and our events, unfortunately, are breeding grounds for predators. So to train all of us on what to look for to protect our vulnerable citizens, our children, I think is key. And to be able to get these people available with their busy schedules, you know, all they got to do is sit down in front of a computer for an hour or so, and then do a talk and then interview one-on-one with people. You know, it's going to be special. It's not going to be. We're going to miss that interaction. You know, the person that you only see once a year that you like to shake hands with or give a hug to, or hey, let's go have a beverage together and talk about what's going on in your life and catching up with what's happening with your family. That's going to be missing, and that's tough. But there's a lot of benefit to it also. From the educational point of view, I think it's going to be a lot better than it would be in person. Will it replace in person? I hope not, because I think we all need that personal interaction. And you talk about the fun, and you know, it is about the fun, but it's more than just the fun, because festivals and events are $1 billion industry in the state of Michigan. And it's $1 billion of economic impact. Now, it happens in small town USA. You know, you've got a festival coming into town. The small town businesses that are on Main Street, that are getting traffic that they wouldn't normally have, the restaurants that are now getting extra people sitting at their tables, or the bars that have more people sitting at their bar stools, the gift shops that have more traffic going through there. Those are all the ancillaries. And then you put in the charitable portion of that, where you got the Lions Club. That's because the festival came to town. They've now got their wagon there that they're serving concession, or the Rotary Club that's doing this, or the Boy Scouts, or whatever, that are doing things that, because of the festival and the event, it's serious economic impact, and it's something that has been missing. Your previous caller was talking about the Woodward Dream Cruise, and Woodward Dream Cruise, or back to the Bricks in Flint, the charitable dollars that were not able to be generated because we couldn't have those events this year because of COVID, that money's gone. Hopefully the stock market will come back and everybody's 401k will be strong again next year. But the money that the charities lost this year, they're gone. So it's important that we have these festivals and events. It's important to a lot of different facets of our society.
Mike Sukent with us. He is the president and CEO of the Michigan Festivals and Events Association, joining us on the Oakland County Megacast. So with that in mind, at this point in time, you don't know what's going to happen in 2021 with COVID-19 and in the next several months, even with COVID-19. So as these festivals and events are preparing for next year, what is your organization consulting with them about, and what are they considering to be able to, as much as is possible as with what we know now, and with as much as may be possible in the next several months with the developments against COVID-19, what is the discussion right now about what can be done to bring back some of the usual fun that we're used to seeing at these festivals and events in 2021, while keeping some level of safety from COVID-19, as this pandemic seems to be in it for the long haul?
Well, I think that you have to still plan your events. If you need to postpone it, you can postpone it. If for some reason you have to cancel it, you go ahead and you cancel it. But if you don't plan it, it won't happen. So you need to proceed forward, and you need to check out the CDC guidelines as to how to proceed safely, and always work on trying to do things better. But you do still have to plan them, because if you don't plan it, it's a guarantee that it won't happen. So always look for the silver lining, because if you're not prepared for it, you're going to miss an opportunity.
Well, thank you for sharing that, and we are all waiting for the silver lining and the return of our festivals and our fairs and our events, because it is so much a part of our community, and definitely that was where the fun is, and we can't wait for the fun to return in 2021. Mike Sukent with us, the president and CEO of Michigan Festivals and Events. Thank you so much for being with us on the Megacast.
Thank you. Have a great day.
Always great having you on the show, and thank you for all you're doing to bring the festivals and the events back, because boy, do I miss them, especially in the fall time, some of the best ones. Hey, we're going to take a quick break here on the Oakland County Megacast. Just a few minutes left, and when we come back, we are going to end the show speaking with one of the performers. How are they doing during all of this? This is the Oakland County Megacast.
Michigan, we're calling on you to save lives. Don't ignore it. Don't let it go to voicemail. It's urgent. In fact, it's critical. Because if you've been in close contact with someone who tests positive for COVID-19, you may have been exposed to the virus. And you could get a call from My COVID Help or your local health department. So please answer the call to learn how to protect yourself, your family, and friends. We're calling on you to stop the spread of COVID-19, to make it safe to reopen businesses and help Michigan move forward. So if you get a call from My COVID Help or your local health department, you may have been exposed to someone with COVID-19. To protect us all, answer the call. Learn more at michigan.gov/containcovid. A message from the Michigan Department of Health and Human Services.
Hi, I'm Dr. Jonae Khaldun. I'm the Chief Medical Executive for the Michigan Department of Health and Human Services. The people who are at highest risk of getting severely ill from COVID-19 are the elderly and those with chronic medical conditions. That includes people with heart disease, diabetes, COPD, or those who have compromised immune systems. People who are in those categories should right now be staying at home as much as possible and not going out if it is not essential. If you fit into one of those categories, those are the things you should do. And if you have a family member who fits into one of those categories, you should be checking in on them and making sure they are following those guidelines. There's something everyone can do to protect the community from COVID-19.
Happy Monday, everyone. Thank you for tuning in to the Oakland County Megacast. You can catch Tyler and I here in the studios Monday through Friday, 10 a.m. to noon, Civic Center TV, Birmingham Area Municipal Access, Channel 15 on Comcast, Channel 99 if you have AT&T. And, of course, you can always catch us on the radio if you're out driving around 89.3 WBLD, Orchard Lake, 88.1 WBFH, Bloomfield Hills. We want to say thank you to everyone tuning in. And, of course, today you can also catch us on my Facebook page, my journalist page, Ronnie Dahl. I think it's journalist. Not sure. It's kind of hard to keep up with social media.
It is. There's so much now.
Social media can be a full-time job.
It is for many people. Yeah.
But and I still don't understand. So regular Facebook limits people to 5,000. So then you had to do a public page, and then that could have more people. Yeah. It's just confusing. You should make it all one and be done with it. But to all of those out there in Facebook land and social media land, we want to say thank you for tuning in to the Oakland County Megacast. And just a reminder as well, we like to do interviews with everyone impacted by COVID-19, which pretty much means everyone in the world right now. So if you're an elected official, politicians, police officers, businesses, we want to hear from you, because we believe by bringing you these stories and bringing you these interviews, you not only see how everyone is trying to survive and the impact of this crisis on individuals, but also hopefully you learn something, you reach out to one another, and we all grow and we learn. And we are happy to bring in our next guest and our last guest for this Monday edition of the Oakland County Megacast, Byron and Michelle Cancelmo. They are performers. Thank you for being with us. This has to be such a hard time for you right now.
It's been difficult where, we have day jobs, which, helped us along. Thank goodness. Michelle's a dental hygienist, and I work for HVAC company Carrier. So we provide emergency rental services. We've got a lot of friends that, they're 100% musicians. That's their income. When we performed, it was a beautiful supplemental income. 2 daughters in college up in Michigan State. You can imagine now with their stay-at-home policies, renting apartments, and providing everything that they need, groceries, etc., without having the, utilizing the campus. It's weighed on us quite a bit. So we're just very, very fortunate to have those day jobs. Like I said, it's impacted us, but not quite as heavily as some of the other musicians that live around our community that rely on it 100%.
So I know you're part of basically like a party band. So you are the hit, I would imagine, for things such as weddings. What's it been like not to perform in person? Because isn't that live performance a part of your creativity and your spirit?
Well, yeah, you draw off the energy of the audience. We have a couple of shows. We have Byron in Motion, which is a party band. We perform at weddings, and we have the Legacy Show, the Byron Legacy Show, which is more of a sit down, have dinner and watch kind of a production. Where we cover artists Tom Jones, Neil Diamond, Elvis in a very Vegas show type of experience. But Byron in Motion in weddings and corporate events, you start off, you play some dinner music, light dinner music, and it's just pleasant for everyone to hear. But as soon as you get everyone up and dancing and having that interaction with the audience, it's infectious, and it drives you to switch gears on songs. You might have went into maybe you wanted to go into disco, but then the way people are reacting to Motown, you get a sense of the energy and what the audience wants, and then their behavior sometimes moves our pace into different areas. It might be, okay, let's stay heavy on classic rock right now. Somebody wants a heavy metal song, somebody wants disco, somebody wants Motown, and we can just kind of feed off that. We've tried doing some FaceTime live, and just Michelle and I just kind of doing a request type of experience, and that was fun. We were getting some communication as we went through our show, which was a lot of fun. But virtual, we're getting used to virtual. I think we all have to sort of adapt to it, but it's very different and very strange. You got to be with people to just feel that energy. You can't feel the energy off Facebook Live or Zoom.
It is a little bit harder when it's via the internet. And with that, are you able to get some bookings right now? Because I know some weddings are happening. It's just on a smaller scale.
Right. So we've Michelle has a condition, rheumatoid arthritis, and so she's super conscious about being in crowded areas, and so I've had to turn down quite a few small outdoor gatherings, 20, 50 plus people, because you just never know. There just could just be that interaction with people that might put Michelle's vitals in a concerned situation. So we're just we've done a couple of small events for like a 90th birthday party for a wonderful person that we know. We did a 50th anniversary, and these were 12-person events, just family owned only, and we were away up on a patio and we did our performance, and they loved it, we loved it. It was like the Tin Man on The Wizard of Oz, just kind of greasing up our jaws and being able to sing and remember the lyrics again, because it feels like years since we've been singing. We just keep practicing. Since we did that, it kind of got revitalized with singing and performing, because we just thought, okay, this year is gone. What do we do? And so since those two events that we did, we've been rehearsing a lot. I have been quoting some projects for next year, some weddings, 250 person weddings. If we get the vaccine and things start to open up and get back to a normal, we're definitely going to be doing some weddings next year and some dinner shows.
I was at a wedding recently, and one of the things they did I thought was so smart is they had wristbands, colored wristbands for people who were maybe immune compromised or others that were more comfortable with COVID, and it was outdoors. I thought that was a really smart thing, because then when you went to interact with one another, you could gauge their comfort level, so be it. And with that, Michelle, as someone who has underlying health issues, how has this time been for you, and any advice that you want to give to the public?
Yeah, I mean, it really is just what you're comfortable with. I know you have to live life, and I just do what's best for me. We don't sit home all the time. We've done some trial things, going out to restaurants and seeing how restaurants are handling situations. So that's it. You just have to do what's best for you and what's comfortable, and I don't feel bad about not hugging someone I used to always hug, and you just sort of adapt, and people are pretty nice about it. We're all in this, they say, all in this together. So everyone's going through the same thing. So most people are very understandable about, how I feel about things and how I may react to someone. So
Byron and Michelle Conselmo with us, local musicians, joining us today on the Oakland County Megacast all throughout the local area, on our TV channels, on our family of radio stations, as well as on Ronnie's Facebook page, on her journalist page, of course, on Facebook via Facebook Live. Byron, Michelle, we talked a lot about what may happen with your performances in 2021, how 2020 in-person performances have been impacted. But what we haven't touched on yet is that some of your performances have gone virtual, including one that's going to be happening next week at a really special event that we'll be a part of, the Vibe event. Can you give us a little bit of a teaser about what we can expect from your show next week during the Chamber of Commerce's Vibe event?
Well, we want to make sure whatever we do, we have the lyrics memorized. We've been working on a lot of new material. We'll provide, a wide range of mix, Dua Lipa, Bee Gees, Marvin Gaye, maybe some Blondie, some Tom Jones, some Neil Diamond, some Karen Carpenter, kind of give you a little experience from the pop stars from yesteryears to today's pop stars. And of course the classic rock era, and we are in Detroit, so we definitely gonna do some Motown. Everyone likes disco, so we've been working on what's that song from Bee Gees?
Oh, I mean, we've done a lot of Bee Gees. I'm not
Nights
sure.
on Broadway.
Oh yeah.
I mean, the groove of that song is just infectious. So we're gonna definitely we're gonna get into it, and we're gonna we got a subwoofer.
It's fun to have something
nice,
on the calendar.
Powerful speakers, and we'll get into it as much as we possibly can. And my understanding, it's going to be there'll be a small audience, a social distance audience. So that's going to be exciting.
So with that, what's your favorite song to perform? Is it YMCA? That's the one I always like to dance to.
That's a great song. We used to do it.
That one we haven't done that in a long time.
Maybe we do that one.
See, you need to add it to your upcoming event. Can't you see it via Zoom? Everyone, why? I can't sing. All my family can sing, and I always say my brother took up all the talent, so that's why I can't sing. But that'll be fun via Zoom, right? We're all YMCA.
That actually could be fun, yeah.
So I love singing Tom Jones songs because of the power and projection that Tom had back in the late 60s, early 70s. And I love singing Neil Diamond and Elvis. So one of my favorite songs from Tom Jones is called You're My World. It's sung to YouTube. It just has beautiful melody lines and a lot of vocal dynamics happening. How about you, Michelle?
I don't know. I mean, I have a wide range of stuff, but I think the most fun I have is singing the Blondie, like the rock tunes, or I do like country as well. So I have fun doing those. I mean, I love Karen Carpenter, but I might be the only one in the audience sometimes that appreciates that music. But
Don't Stop Believing by Journey too.
Yeah,
I like to push it to the limit vocally, and sing a lot of those songs in original key. So.
I will say the Journey song, yesterday we were talking before the Lions game, and we're like, we need to have that as our theme song every week before a Lions game.
Absolutely. Yeah. Don't Stop Believing.
Yeah, Don't Stop Believing.
Don't Stop Believing. The Lions are going to win this week. Hey, just a couple more minutes here with us on the Oakland County Megacast. As performers, as parents, and as business people trying to navigate this crazy, crazy world that we're living in right now. Oh my gosh, look at your cute doggy. That should be your mascot. What advice do you want people to know about trying to live through this? Anything positive that came out of it for you? Hey, real quick, you got to bring the dog back in because I just mentioned the dog when he was off camera. What's your doggy's name?
That's Steve. He's very popular. He needs his own Facebook page.
Every post he gets more likes and comments than we ever do. So.
We even have a little straddle for him, a vest that's very, very safe and protected. We have him go for rides on our motorcycle. We've done it.
Oh my gosh, that is so awesome. Is Steve a cockapoo? What kind of dog is he?
Yorkie poo.
Yeah.
Yorkie poo. See, my dog Trixie has a Twitter page too, like a trio. So Steve should have his own page too. But quickly, any advice or anything that you learned for the positive coming out of this pandemic that you think is going to make you and what you do stronger in the future?
Well, we've learned to appreciate an audience, but no, one thing I gained is just awareness of the people that truly love you and those that you truly love and have stayed together through all this. We try to reach out to as many people as we know, but we find our nucleus is Facebook. We have I might have 2,000 friends on Facebook, but the reality is we might have 10 people, 15 people that are close to us that have really hung in there, and that we see on a continuum that provide the strength. So we tend to lean on other people, and they on us, just to laugh and not pretend that nothing's going on. We just talk about what's going on, and have a drink or two in between and laugh. I know we've done a lot more yard work than we've ever done before.
Well, if you run out of yard work at your house, you can come to my house and I'll let you finish. Hey, just about 10 seconds left. Real quick, Facebook, you mentioned social media. Where can people find you?
So Byron Legacy Show on Facebook and Byron in Motion on Facebook.
Thank you all for being with us. We so appreciate your time. Give Steve a big hug for us as well, and best of luck in the future. And again, check them out on social media. That's going to wrap it up for the Monday edition of the Oakland County Megacast. For Tyler and myself, we want to say thank you for tuning in, and for Jake and Larry, thank you for all of your help. This has been the Oakland County Megacast.